Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Too Fast. This happened about 2 years ago. I work in construction, specifically in concrete cutting. For those unfamiliar with my job, I don't pour concrete. I use large diesel and hydraulic powered saws to cut and remove it. I work at a small company with about 15 employees. We are the go-to company in our area for concrete cutting and removal. I was the first employee hired, and my bosses, Brad and Cody, are incredible. They've been in the industry for 25 and 30 years respectively. They are not just knowledgeable, they are hands-on and will outwork anyone, including us employees. We were awarded a no-bid contract at a large facility to cut and remove a significant section of outdoor slab that had cracked. This kind of project is routine for us, but it was still a large-scale job. The client wanted it done right and fast, so they choose us, even though we are not always the cheapest. They also requested extra equipment and specialized saws, just in case. The project was set to start at 6:30 AM with a safety meeting. Brad and Cody headed out first, while I stayed back to prepare my crews. When I arrived at 8 AM, Brad and Cody were still standing by their trucks, waiting. No one from the client side had shown up yet. Finally, around 9 AM, they arrived. With no acknowledgement of being late, we met the project manager, John, who told us during the safety meeting that some of his team would always be around to observe while we worked. We thought it was odd, but didn't question it. We ran a routine safety meeting of our own and got started. We completed about a third of the project on the first day, despite starting late. Throughout the day, there were no fewer than 25 people standing around watching us work. We joked that they should just set up bleachers. They made us stop at 4 PM. Even though a key part of our job was to work quickly. Something felt off, but we figured we could still finish in 3 days and set a record for this kind of project, all while making decent money. The next morning, just as we were about to head out, Brad got an email from John. While we can tell that your company are master operators with their machines, we feel as if they are operating in an unsafe manner by running multiple machines at once, and request that they slow down to maintain safe working conditions. They also didn't try to ensure our supervisors felt safe throughout the day. Brad was furious. We'd been called in specifically to get the job done fast, and we hadn't done anything unsafe. By the time we got to the site, Brad's attitude had shifted. He went from, "These guys don't know what they are talking about," to, "Oh, you want us to slow down? Sure, we'll slow Ray down." At the safety meeting, John tried to wrap things up quickly. "Okay, everyone knows what to do. Let's get started." But Brad interrupted, saying, "Hold on, since no one is willing to address us in person and prefers hiding behind emails, let's clear this up. You think we are too fast and unsafe?" John looked uncomfortable and stammered something about how he felt unsafe with so many people watching and worried someone might get too close. We had set up safety cones and danger tape and told everyone to stay behind the line. If they didn't feel safe, maybe they shouldn't have had so many people standing around doing nothing. Brad simply said, "Okay, we'll go real slow. And if someone crosses our safety line, we'll shut the site down for an hour for another safety meeting." From that point on, we operated at the slowest pace imaginable. Every machine idled at the lowest setting. Whenever John crossed the safety line, which he did 3 times that day and 8 times total, Brad would yell, "Shut down," and we'd take a mandatory hour-long safety meeting. Ironically, none of John's employees ever crossed the line, just him. John kept asking us verbally to speed things up, but Brad told him, "I need that in writing, and we'll happily oblige. You might even save some money." John never sent the email, possibly out of pride. What should have taken 3 to 4 days stretched to 3 weeks. The head of the facility eventually came out, curious about the delays. When we showed him John's email, he laughed. He admitted he couldn't stand John and said the project's success would affect John's bonus. He also approved us to charge the full hourly rate for every piece of equipment John insisted we bring. By the end of the project, we had built close to 200k for a job that should have cost about 45k. I even got a crazy bonus, because Brad and Cody are incredible bosses who shared the windfall. The next story is called Food Description. Many years ago, I worked at a restaurant that's part of a national chain with a name that combines a fruit and an insect. Towards the end of my time there, I found a better position and gave my 2 weeks notice. Around the same time, the restaurant was preparing to roll out some updates to the menu, which meant we had mandatory staff meetings to learn about the new dishes. The meetings were scheduled early in the morning, before the restaurant opened, so that everyone could attend. As a closing bartender, I was often at work until 2 or 3 AM cleaning up. Having to return for an unpaid hour-long meeting just a few hours later wasn't exactly appealing. Since I was leaving and wouldn't even be there when the new menu launched, I asked my manager if I really needed to attend. If you want to work your remaining scheduled shifts, you do. Living paycheck to paycheck as a college student, I couldn't afford to miss out on those wages. So I reluctantly went to the meetings. Part of the rollout involved a booklet we were supposed to fill out about the new menu items. Each dish had a prompt asking, "How would you describe this dish?" The idea was to create enticing descriptions like a quarter pounder of Angus beef, topped with melted cheese and caramelized onions. But there weren't any specific rules about what we could or couldn't write. Cue my malicious compliance. I sat slightly out of my manager's line of sight, pulled up the company website on my phone and looked up the nutritional values for each dish. My descriptions were far from appetizing. The next day, my boss called me into the office. Holding my booklet, he asked, "Are these the real nutritional facts?" I replied, "You are the manager, so you should know." But yes, I pulled them directly from the company website. His reaction? Wow, that's disgusting. I should probably start looking for a new job too. We shouldn't be selling this stuff. I finished out my last shifts without incident. A couple of weeks later, I returned as a customer. I ordered a pitcher of our strongest beer and started a trivia game with some of the bar regulars who were friends of mine. The game? Guessing the nutritional facts of various menu items. We weren't being loud or inappropriate, just having fun. The bartender that day, one of my former co-workers who wasn't exactly my biggest fan, kept giving me annoyed looks. But since I wasn't breaking any rules or being disruptive, there wasn't much she could do about it. The third story is called Micromanager. I'm a science teacher, and one year we got a new principal who was very hands-on, micromanaging everything and everyone. In the past, I had done a few labs that involved food as part of the lesson. Shortly after he started, the principal sent out an email stating that if science teachers wanted to use food in their labs, we had to submit a detailed lesson plan for approval. Now, I understand wanting to know how our lab ties into the concepts we are teaching, but a full-blown detailed lesson plan for every single lab felt excessive. This principal wasn't the kind to listen to feedback or collaborate. He ran things with a my way or the highway attitude, and his door was definitely not open to discussions. Cue my passive-aggressive side. I started submitting 20-page lesson plans for every single lab. I'm pretty skilled at filling things with educational jargon, so these plans were very thorough, perhaps unnecessarily so. And since I was already jumping through hoops, I decided to go all in. I did every lab I could find that involved food that year. Unfortunately, he did put a stop to one of my favorite projects, the solar cooker competition. This was particularly frustrating, because I had secured grant money the previous year from a major engineering company, specifically for that project. Eventually though, his leadership style caught up with him. He faced so many grievances from staff that his time with us came to an end. The day he left was definitely a highlight of that school year. The last story is called Ships. A while back I worked weekends in a warehouse, where we handled ships in bulk. Imagine trucks arriving loaded with just one flavor, and us loading smaller orders onto trucks, heading to individual stores. The warehouse was stacked high with pallets of ships, and our job as pickers was to push large carts, pick up boxes of ships in various flavors, load them onto trucks, and move on to the next order. If a box got dropped and a bag burst open, it was common practice for us to eat the chips. It was a little perk of the job, and there were usually a few open bags to snack on during our shift. One weekend I came in to find a new rule in place. No more eating chips. A new manager had been hired, and he made it clear that anyone caught eating the company's chips would be fired for theft. This was frustrating, especially since we were regularly compacting and discarding cases of chips that were close to their expiration date. Talk about waste. The team was understandably upset, and morale was low. The next weekend, I returned to find that the workers had devised a clever plan. They started buying chips from our competitor's brand and eating those during their shifts. Their reasoning was simple. Since the chips weren't from our company, it wasn't theft, and they had receipts to prove the snacks were purchased with their own money. Management wasn't happy about this. The sight of workers munching on a competitor's chips in the warehouse was clearly not ideal, but there wasn't much they could do about it. After a few weeks, the situation was resolved with a compromise. Management began placing stickers on select bags of chips to approve them for consumption by workers. Once the bags were officially marked, it wasn't considered theft anymore. So in the end we were allowed to snack on the company's chips again, just with a little extra oversight. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.